Hey, welcome, folks, to this edition of the 700 Club. Biden's huge blunder at the border. The president inherited a solution and then went on and created a crisis. The fallout, 1 million migrants are expected to surge into the U.S. this year alone. So what will former President Trump say when he visits the border today? And what was the reaction of the lawmakers who recently saw the fiasco firsthand? Our Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us that story.
While the Trump administration built about 450 miles of new barriers along the southern border, like this one here in South Texas, construction stopped when President Biden took office, leaving most of Trump's border wall unfinished.
The money to finish wall construction is already there. It's just that President Biden decided he didn't want to do it anymore.
Florida Congressman Byron Donalds recently joined a delegation at the southern border in Texas.
Border Patrol is essentially a medical triage unit right now.
On the tour, they found out that only one agent is needed where the wall is complete, compared to unfinished stretches that require 5 or 6. Yet even where the structure looks finished, construction stopped with no electricity installed, leaving the camera and light systems powerless.
When you come down here and you see the infrastructure for yourself, you go into the detention facilities run by Border Patrol, and you see what's happening on the ground, it just makes sense to finish wall construction and bring back some of the enforcement measures that we had in the previous administration.
Lawmakers also spoke with agents and local residents, toured detention facilities, and visited areas where people are coming across. On this side of the river here is Mexico, and over here is the United States. And agents are finding migrants crossing by rafts all hours of the day and night.
We're actually on pace to add about 1 million different illegal aliens to the already 10 million that are here in the United States this year alone.
Brandon Judd, who's been a Border Patrol agent for 24 years, says more people are coming now than ever before.
The ones that are released, they're never going back. Because again, once they get released into the United States, if they don't show up to their court appearance, the Biden administration will not let ICE go after them if they don't have a criminal record. The vast majority don't have criminal records here in the United States.
And describes the current situation as complete and total chaos.
You know, what's disappointing to us is that the administration won't even define this problem. And if you're not going to define the problem, you're not going to try to find solutions.
Texas Congressman Michael Cloud led the trip and pointed out the major differences between the Trump and Biden border policies.
What we had under the Trump administration was an administration who looked at a crisis, put in policies to mitigate the crisis. And we've seen the absolute reversal of that. We've seen an administration who's inherited a solution and has removed those policies to create a crisis.
He fears Biden plans to reverse even more immigration policies like Title 42, which allows agents to send migrants back to Mexico.
Basically, it would take one of the few tools we have in order to return people to Mexico who are not supposed to be in the country away, and would de facto create catch and release.
Cloud argues agents desperately need more resources to fight the cartels.
Right now, it's difficult when you have an administration who wants the chaos to happen. And that's what seems to be the case.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert sees it as a humanitarian crisis.
The cartel are in control of everyone who crosses the southern border. This is organized crime. This is human smuggling.
Boebert says parents are self-separating from their children to get their kids into the U.S. and then following behind them.
They're sending their daughters with the Plan B pill. They're giving them the Plan B pill because they expect their daughters to be sexually assaulted on their journey.
Boebert wants to see wall funding included in the current infrastructure bill.
That wall allows us to dictate where illegal traffic takes place. It also allows us to control the flow of drugs that come into the United States. Without that infrastructure, without that barrier there, the cartels are free to cross their products anywhere that they want.
Representatives Michael Cloud and Lauren Boebert will be among the congressional delegation joining former President Donald Trump and Texas Governor Abbott at the border today. And Governor Abbott is trying to take Texas federal coronavirus relief funds and put those towards finishing Trump's border wall in his state, but he's facing opposition from Democratic lawmakers. Pat?
Abigail, you saw it. Well, what is your personal reaction? You saw those people. How do you describe it yourself?
When you go to McAllen, Texas, where we were, there you very much feel what is happening at the border. We were talking with a lot of Border Patrol agents, a lot of law enforcement, and the ranchers and people who live in the city. And I spoke with one rancher who told me throughout the years, he's probably spent $500,000 in paying for damages to his personal property as a result of people coming across the border. And everyone we spoke with told us that it is night and day difference between what was happening during the Trump administration and what's happening during the Biden administration, that they feel like the floodgates have opened. And in the past couple of months, there are just they feel this huge surge of people. And this one rancher I spoke with, the day that we were there, they'd already had two groups of about a dozen or so people that they'd spotted on their property crossing through their land just that day. And he told me since January, they're averaging about 2 to 5 groups per day coming across. They're having their fences cut down. They're getting calls from their sheriff at 2 in the morning telling them that their fence has been damaged, their cattle is loose, they're waking their families up, and they're going to repair that fence in the middle of the night to keep their livestock on their property, all while there's people loose running around their land, hiding from law enforcement. And it's costing them a great deal. They're dealing with car thefts. They're dealing with property damage. And I spoke with these agents that are the Texas governor. He started Operation Lone Star a few months ago that's specifically going after the criminal activity coming across the border. So the guns being smuggled in, the drugs being smuggled in, and it's getting great results, but it's costing Texas $5 million a week to do this. And it's taking a lot of their resources away. So if you live 3 hours away and you get into a traffic accident and you call a police officer, you could be waiting a very long time for help to get to you because so much of their resources are going towards mitigating and trying to help what's going on at the border. So Texas is really dealing with a lot right now.
How the cartel is using these groups to smuggle refugees. They're getting drugs, and also there's some criminals coming across the M13. Tell us about that.
Well, this was something that a lot of agents told us about during some of the briefings that we sat through, that this surge of people is a distraction. So what the cartels are doing is they're bringing these huge groups of people and they're letting them loose, letting them cross the border. It's creating complete chaos on our side of the border as these Border Patrol agents are trying to round up the large groups of people coming through. And meanwhile, while the Border Patrol agents and law enforcement are distracted, then the cartels are coming behind with the stuff that they really don't want the Border Patrol agents seizing. That's when they're bringing in the drugs, the guns that they're then reselling in the United States. So they said that's one huge problem, and that's part of the reason that Texas started Operation Lone Star, to really not just try and crack down on the people coming across, but also on the illegal things that we really don't want in the United States too.
Thanks, Abigail. Thanks for that report. Folks, can you believe it? I mean, no wonder people are fed up. I tell you, we are fed up. This crime is awful. Inflation, awful. The economy is out of control, awful. And now this terrible crisis at the border, it passes comprehension that actually they seem to want this. And Governor DeSantis of Florida has said, I'm going to send some of my people over there to help your police this border, but a little bit of money and they build the rest of the wall. And you remember how Trump used to have to fight and everybody left and the Democrats wouldn't give him a penny. They fought him on everything. Now we have a humanitarian crisis, an economic crisis, and a crime crisis all unfolding because we've got a bunch of incompetents running our country. Oh, it's time to a change, big time.